If stepping on a scale ruins your whole day, it's time we operate on your thinking. Your weight doesn't equal your worth, especially if you're over 40 and things are starting to shift, especially with your body and your purpose. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Lydia Martinez Ebling, certified fitness and nutrition specialist and hormone health coach for women over 40. Today, we're talking about the scale versus your identity and why all women, not just women in midlife, should be measuring something deeper than the number on the scale. Sometimes this is a tricky conversation for me because it's kind of like a love-hate relationship. I don't want to say I have a love-hate relationship, but I have a love-hate relationship with the scale. Because on one end, I use it for data because data is really important. I just want to see the data because if we have data, then we can always do what I say, measure, monitor, and adjust to help someone balance their hormones, to help them lose the fat that they're looking to drop, to help them get in shape or increase muscle. And we need data for that. But on the other side, the flip side to that is that the scale is so deceiving. And we've put this emotional unit to the scale that creates our identity. And it's not something that we naturally have done. It's because it's been ingrained in us through the health professionals, through the healthcare industry, through marketing. And it really, that emotional unit makes us just go crazy. Tony Robbins, one of my favorite, coaches out there, mindset people that ever was, he says, the quality of your life is directly proportional to the emotional states you frequent. And that has a lot to do with the scale. Because like I said, you put that emotional unit on the scale and we use that emotional unit to set us up for our actions for the day. It actually gives us permission to do or not do, and it shouldn't. See, because what I've noticed through all my years of working with women, what do? We get on the scale and we're doing whatever program that we're doing. We get on the scale and the scale says you've lost 4 pounds. And you're like, yes, I've lost 4 pounds. I'm going to go eat a cheeseburger because you lost 4 pounds. Or it motivates you to keep doing the right things that help you drop that 4 pounds. But on the other end to that is that you get on the scale and you didn't drop 4 pounds. You gained 4 pounds. And you're like, oh my gosh, I gained 4 pounds. This doesn't work. I'm going to go eat a cheeseburger. You see, you created some type of emotional unit and it created that action that gives you permission to do or not do. But not only that, when I talk about that emotional unit, we start having this conversation in our head saying, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'll never be able to do this. These things don't work. And it's so self-destructive. And I want to go back because data is really important. And I always teach our ladies, I want you to inspect what you expect, but not to the point of self-destruction. So let's break down our identity versus the scale. First thing that's really important for you to understand with the scale, it's just simply a tool. Everything that we use, whether it's AI or a tracking app or getting on a scale or a food scale, is just simply a tool. But the problem with a scale when it comes to like your body weight, here's the issue. Because we'll often say, the scale is a liar. And why is that? Because it doesn't reflect what's going on with your body. And one of the worst things that you can do is get on the scale every day. Sometimes people get on the scale multiple times a day. I can't tell you how many women that come, when they start working with us, we actually have to break them from that habit. And it's like, literally, I do not want you getting on the scale for X amount of time. Literally, like we have to put that in there and we have to remind them. Why is it a liar? Because it doesn't reflect what's going on with your body. As I just said, it doesn't reflect your hormone levels. It doesn't reflect your water weight. Like your body fluctuates from moment to moment. People don't realize that. Even your hormones. Like if you were to go into the doctor right now and get your blood drawn and then 30 minutes later get it drawn again, there's going to be a different result because your hormones are constantly fluctuating. Your body's constantly fluctuating. So when you step on the scale, it doesn't tell you, oh, hey, Jackie, you just had a bowel movement, so you dropped 3 pounds. It's not going to tell you that. It doesn't say, oh, but Lydia, you just drank 2 cups of coffee, 32 ounces of water and 8 breakfasts when you jumped on the scale. Get it? So it's not looking at all the things that's going on with your body. And as we start to mature, we're going through all these fluctuations with our hormones, and your body's always trying to achieve balance. So if you're jumping on the scale on a regular basis every day, you're going to torture yourself. Another thing when it comes to the scale is that it doesn't tell you that the weight that you gain might be water weight, or the weight that you gain is actually muscle. That's really important. Now, I'll give you an example. I talk about this a lot. I'm 55 or getting ready to turn 55. Man, I don't want to jump too fast with that. But when I was going into my 50s, turning 50, at 40, like just before I turned 49, I'm like, okay, I want to be in the best shape of my life when I hit 50. And like, I want to inspire women to work out and do the things at our age. Why am I telling you that? Because I got on the scale to start, but then that whole year, I didn't get on the scale again. And the reason was because I understood how my body was working, and I was increasing my calories, I was shifting my workout. And if I would have gotten on the scale, I would have saw that I was gaining weight. And that's just a mental head game. And the weight the thing is, I was gaining muscle. At the end of the year, I actually gained weight from when I started, but I had lost inches. You see, and the scale wouldn't have told me that. So I would have been defeated even before I finished. So I tell you that is that the scale is going to lie to you. Use it as a tool, but don't allow it to torture you. Next, let's talk about the things that really matter when it comes to measurements. Like I said, I use the scale as a tool, so you can use it in the beginning, but don't torture yourself. Look at the things. You have to use deductive reasoning and think about things that really matter. I'll go back to that whole year when I was, 48, turning 49, going to 50. I want to be in the best shape. Okay. I didn't get on the scale again, but what I did do is I started tracking my strength. I was getting stronger every time I was getting to the gym. I was tracking inches as far as my clothes. I had specific clothes that I absolutely love, and they are fitted. And I knew that I wanted them to fit a certain way. So every probably 6 to 8 weeks, I'm like, okay, let me go try this dress on. Let me go try this slacks on. And I wanted to see how they were fitting. So I was using that. But I was also looking at, what about my muscle tone? What am I seeing in the mirror? How is my sleep? How does my skin look? How do my eyes look? How do I actually feel? Those are the things that really matter. And I want to rewind for a second because, in the beginning, I talked about that emotional unit. And sometimes we tell people to pick a goal. And maybe they're picking a goal of, I want to weigh 150, or I want to weigh 160, or I want to be that weight when I was in college, whatever it is. But is it really about the weight, or is it the feeling, or is it the look that you're going for? Because let's say your goal is to drop 30 pounds, but you drop 15, and you look in the mirror and you like what you see. You like how your clothes are fitting. You like how you're feeling. Is that what you're looking for? Or are you really going to say, oh man, I'm such a loser because I've only lost 15? I want you to think about that. So what really matters, is it the number? Because what does that number tell you? It doesn't tell you anything. What tells you things are the things that I just talked about, is your energy, your skin. When you start feeling better and you're looking in the mirror and liking what you're seeing, or you're putting on clothes and you like how they fit, well, then there's a different glide in your stride and hip to your step. That's what's really important. And last, let's talk about really breaking that scale mindset for good. Like I said, remember, the scale is just a tool, so use it as a tool. It's not your enemy, and it's not your best friend. Stop putting emotion to it. Like, the data is just data. If you can get like that science mind, that can really help you, because it's, again, about the data. A scientist, when they're looking at the information, they're not emotionally connected. Yeah, they're hoping for an outcome, but they don't sit there and throw everything up in the air and throw the baby out with the bathwater because the data didn't give them what they wanted. They say, okay, all right, we need to measure, monitor, and adjust. So how do you measure, monitor, and adjust? How should you use the scale? Well, find out where you are. Always talk about, if you're going to living in Florida, I'm going to drive from my home to Disney World? Well, my GPS wants to know my starting point. So use it as a starting point. Identify your measurements, identify your weight, and most importantly, identify your body fat, because that's the key factor of your longevity and your health and how you're actually going to age, whether you age poorly or you age healthily. Now that you have that data, when should you weigh? Some people like weighing every morning, and that's the worst thing that you could do, okay? Because you're just torturing yourself. If you had pizza the night before, you're retaining water, you got a lot of sodium, you're gonna have a lot of food in your stomach, so you can easily gain 5 pounds because of that starch and that sodium, which is all just water weight. And I already talked about the scale in the sense of how it's a liar, because it's not going to tell you, hey, you had pizza yesterday, okay? Now going back to that, when should you weigh? 4 weeks. Every 4 weeks is plenty. That's all you need, because if you're doing a new lifestyle, okay? And what do I mean by that? You have a goal. Like I said, when I turned 49 going into my 50, I had a specific goal. I wanted to drop body fat, I wanted to lean out, and I wanted 6-pack abs. That was my goal. I don't care if it's, vain or not. That's what I wanted to do. Okay. Now that was my goal, but then I didn't get back on the scale. That was my preference because I just didn't feel like I needed it. I wanted to use my clothes. I wanted to use measurements as far as measuring tape. That's what I wanted to do. Okay. Now, but every 4 weeks is really a good spot. If you're looking to drop body fat and gain lean muscle mass, which you kind of want to do both, 4 weeks at a time is plenty. And that's where you can say, okay, my results, what results am I getting? And I don't want you to ask, am I happy with them? Where can I improve? Do I want to improve? Or do I just keep doing what I want to be doing? So hopefully that makes sense. So just do every 4 weeks. And one of the things I'm going to suggest is that when you measure yourself, when you weigh yourself on that scale, wear the same thing every time so you can see the transition. So week 1, week 4, week 8, week 12, and then on a 90-day time frame, you can measure, monitor, and adjust. And as like a bonus, I want to talk about how you talk to yourself. One of the things I said in the beginning, we'll get on the scale, and if we don't see the number that we want to see, often we're like, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I can't do this, I'll never be able to do X, Y, or Z. And when you say things like that to yourself, you're actually setting yourself up for failure because your mind actually hears you. And your mind is a really interesting, piece of machinery. I mean, you realize that it doesn't know something that is reality from something that is perceived. So if you're constantly perceiving that you're going to fail, then you're always going to fail and you're always going to struggle. And understanding that you were fearfully and wonderfully made. One of my favorite scriptures is, as a man thinketh in his heart, is he. And what does that mean? It means that whatever really is in your heart will reflect on the outside. You should know that you are wonderfully made, that you are qualified, that you are called, and you are capable. So start using that. Start thinking about the things that you are saying to yourself. Because think about your best friend. Would you ever allow someone to disrespect your best friend? No. So don't do it to yourself. If you're ready to break free from the scale and build strength in your body, mind, and purpose, go ahead and download my Hormone Reset 101 guide below. It's not about shrinking down, it's about leveling up.